raise your hand and coach will kind of just mediate things or take yourself off mute and we'll just go with it. So with that, open it up for questions for Coach. Connor, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hey, Lyle, how you doing? No. Now I think we can. We were getting you there a little bit.
Good now?
Good.
All right. Long time no see, man.
Yeah, man. Feel like we can go a lot of different ways here. I guess just to start, what's the defense look like for you in the last 2 to 3 weeks, and what are the things that you're working on for the next 2 weeks?
Looks good. I mean, the kids, they worked really hard. I know we had a long time off there, but I mean, you can tell they put the work in while they were at home. You know, obviously not physically as much as they could do if they were here, but like mentally, you know, we had those Zoom meetings all the time. Like it really showed up, in my opinion. Like you can tell they worked at it. And we were further along mentally than I would have ever thought. You know, it seemed like, you know, typically you're out for 5 weeks and you're recruiting, well, you're Zoom meeting with these kids 3 to 4 times a week. Like that showed up. Like I thought it really carried over in the fall camp. And when we had all those walkthroughs, we had those 12 walkthroughs, you know, I mean, that stuff to me was huge. You know, it really made up for the fact that you missed 10 spring practices. So I was pretty pleased with where we were at, you know, where we're at right now, I should say.
Does some of that also come from having such an experienced, especially front seven with guys like Jaquez and Buggy and Sue and, you know, some of your guys on that defense? I got to think that, you know, you in the second full season, it's
right.
The curve is going to be a little accelerated, right?
Yeah, and Jaquez wasn't really a linebacker last year. You know, wasn't really a full-time linebacker last year till Stranad got hurt. So, like, this was really his, you know, we thought the spring was going to be his chance to really get better, you know. So, yeah, I mean, all the teaching in the off season, all those Zoom meetings, like he really took that and ran with it. And again, all those guys, whether it's Chase Jones and Chase Monroe and, you know, Jalen Hudson and all those linebackers with the, you know, all that stuff, they've come a long way from year 1 to year 2, and then the D-line too. You know, there's a lot of experience up there. So, you know, we're not having a lot of conversations about if this, then that. You know, there's just not a whole lot of that. It's really just, you know, playing now. We're really playing fast.
Hey, Lyle, in regards to the linebacker room, it seems like obviously Ryan Smenda is number 1 on that pecking order. But then where do things kind of fall out after that? I know that Jaquez played really well down the stretch. Then you also have DJ Taylor back and a bevy of young guys who were starting to look good in spring camp. So where does that kind of line out in terms of how does that depth chart kind of come together?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna play a lot of linebackers this year, which we haven't had the ability to do the last 2 years. You know what I mean? I mean, we had to move safeties to linebacker in the last 2 years. Hopefully, we don't have to do that this year. We're gonna be able to rotate some guys. You know, hopefully be able to play Ryan and Quez on some more special teams because they're not the only 2 linebackers that can play now. You know, now we've got 4 or 5 guys that can play. You know, really 6. That can play, which is a good thing. And we need to do that. Like, as you guys know, I mean, every year, you know, game 5, game 6, it's, you know, we're losing linebackers. That's been every year. You know, we're going to try to, you know, get ahead of that thing by playing more guys and not letting Ryan and Quez and all these guys play 55 snaps every game, play 45 and be really good on special team. And in terms of DJ, you know, the spring was big for him, you know, and that stunk that he couldn't get that, and he started off a little slow, but he's starting to, the last couple of days, he's really started to look pretty good. I mean, he's getting back. He's not fully back to where he was, but he's getting there. And he's a lot bigger DJ than he was a year and a half ago. So he's a big boy now, and he's different in terms of, you know, the pop that he has when he hits a running back. which we're excited about.
Is the spring camp Jeff Burley the same Jeff Burley that returned for the fall?
He may be. It's just that it seems like I really think like Jacquez, everyone else though kind of elevated as well. Jacquez elevated big time. Like Ryan, maybe it might be Quez is better. I don't know who's the best guy right now. Chaz Jones is now healthy. He played, 8 games last year. We don't know, maybe the whole season with a torn, hip labrum. Well, he looks a lot better than he did all last year. So again, everyone, and then you throw DJ in the mix. You throw Jalen Hudson, that's now not a true freshman anymore. That's 6'4", 240 that can run. You throw all these guys. I think, yeah, Jeff's better, but so's the whole position group. So, it's tough to crack the lineup right now. We can't play 7 linebackers. We only play with 2. So, but yeah, he's done well.
Coach, that depth and your D line, the linebackers, how much will that help you? With your secondary, you're still kind of, you got some young guys back there.
Right. It better help a lot. No, we got to have fresh guys out there on a D line. There's no doubt about it. And then we've got to have, guys that know what they're doing. The second crew of linebackers that come in, they got to know what they're doing, and they've got to play fast, and they've got to, obviously do some more of the communication. We'll play some young guys in the back end, so they're going to have to take over some of the, getting people lined up, communication stuff. So it's critical that, we play a lot of healthy, a lot of fresh guys on the D line, and we rotate the linebackers in, and we don't have any drop off. Like that's huge.
How have you been happy with the secondary and the progression of the guys back there?
Good. I think we've found some things that we didn't think we were going to have, which is good. It's good. There's a freshman safety, Nick Anderson from Virginia that, I thought he'd be a good player down the road. He's really shown up a lot for us, which is surprising. I'm honestly shocked, but he worked hard to get there, and then there's some younger corners that are starting to show up now that is very promising.
Lyle, how's Nasir's health? He's somebody that we haven't heard much about, and it's I don't think there's anything there. It's just we haven't heard much at all. So is he good to go and running around like normal?
No, he's not running around. He is practicing like normal. I would say not, he's not taking team reps and stuff like that, but, he's starting to. He looks unbelievable. He looks exactly the way he looked last year. He's strong. He's changing direction. He's, doing everything. It's just, out there in a team situation yet. I'm not in a rush, to be honest with you. He's, I don't think anybody works harder off the field in terms of studying and like, I don't worry about that stuff with him. I think we all just want him, Coach Clausen included, we all just want him when he comes back to be 100% confident that, he's going to be healthy. So we're taking our time. And the other thing is too, we didn't know what was going to happen. The season got pushed back once, which is a good thing for him, so we were really, taking our time and making sure when he came back that he was both physically and mentally ready to come back. Because the way he plays, like, we just can't he has to be confident that his leg can hold up, which it is. It's going to be able to hold up. So
sorry about that. I noticed that you probably could hear my dog snoring in the background.
That's all right.
So you think he's going to be good for Clemson in 2 weeks? Like, that's not even a concern at this point?
I wouldn't say he's ready to play the whole game, but I think he'll be ready to play in some. It's probably too far away right now. 2 weeks, believe it or not, is probably too far away to give you an honest answer on that. He'll take a good amount today, and we'll see. Again, I just don't want to rush the kid. the kid's not, if he's not 100% mentally ready, I don't think we should rush him.
Lyle, you piqued my interest when you talked about some of the young guys impressing at corner. Who is kind of in line to kind of fight for that spot next to Jasir for the opener?
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, it's an ongoing battle right now between Deacs, Asisima, Peyton Woolard. We moved to field corner, and then the freshman, Keelan Carson. Those are the guys right now that are all kind of battling for that spot. It's been interesting.
Hey Lyle, we haven't met in person, but I'm Lauren Walsh. I work for WXII. So thanks for your time today. We talked to Coach Clausen about how he has access to the entire roster, and obviously that's usually not the case with the number of guys, specifically Wake redshirts. So
Right.
What's that like for you on the defensive side and the number of players you have access to? And with that, has anyone surprised you so far?
Yeah, like these freshmen, like the DBs we're talking about, whether it's Kalen or Nick Anderson or, any of the Gavin Holmes, like all these guys, JJ Roberts, like they're all going to play for us, which is huge. Because like typically you're saying to yourself, well, you got to pick the games they're going to play in. You got to be careful. Like right now, it's like it almost allows you to, like, I guess, like, typically you got to be a little careful how much you rep them because they're not the guys that are necessarily going to play in the first couple games. So, you got to give the guys – well, now you're saying the heck with it. Just let's get them all ready. We don't care about it. And that's not typically been our philosophy at Wake Forest. We like to redshirt our guys if we can. Well, now it's like it's actually pretty cool because now we know we can play some of these kids. Like we know Kalen can play. So let's try to get them ready. Let's do everything we can to get them ready. And the thing that allows us to do is, the Jasir Taylor, who is going to play, allows you to lighten his load a little bit and get some of those other guys in there for him. You want to kind of split the corner reps up. But I guess that's the biggest thing. Like right now, it's get everybody that can. And with the COVID thing, you got to get them all ready to play. You don't know who's going to be your starting 11 in 3 weeks. So they all better know how to play, and what we're doing. So it's been fun. And the other thing too, it's making these freshmen now, like usually they kind of get an inkling. They look at the depth chart and they look at everything. They say, well, I'm probably not playing. I'm probably the sixth guy. I'm the fifth guy. But right now they want to play. It's a free year. Like, let's go play. I want to get on the field. I want to play against Clemson. So that's pretty cool. It seems like a lot more of them are into it more than ever now.
Lyle, how would you best describe the rover position heading into this season? And how do you plan – who's in the mix there, and how do you plan on using that position?
It'll be Trey Red, A.J. Williams, and Luke Masterson will play there some too. So it'll be those three guys. And then, obviously we'll play with some nickel. We'll play with whether it's Kobe Davis, Zion Keith, or Jasir Taylor. They've all taken reps at nickel there too. So we can play with the safety or we can play with the corner. Either way.
So Luke will kind of float between safety and rover, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. He's played them all practice. And Trey Red will play, rover and safety too. They'll play, left and right. They're interchangeable in my mind. AJ's just playing rover. He's a younger guy. And those other guys are just playing rover, rover nickel. So we repped a bunch of guys there. But predominantly it's been Trey Red and AJ Williams.
Just in a general sense, Lyle, how excited are you about being 2 weeks away from the season kicking off and it actually looking like this is going to come to fruition? And then are you pleased with how your defense is coming together? Do you think you've got a good unit? Yeah,
I mean, the first thing, like, am I excited? Like, you can't imagine. Like, because, 2 months ago, you're not playing football. It's not happening. A month ago, it's not happening. And, what are you going to do? Like, I'm just telling you, this has been, I don't care what happens on the 12th. I'll be just so excited to play football. And so are our kids. Like, I don't even know if they care who they're playing. Like, I really don't. I don't think Clemson means anything. I don't think we mean anything to Clemson. I really don't think that like anybody cares. Just the fact that we get to go play football, I think really excites everybody. Like, this has been a really fun camp. Like, I think the kids appreciate it more, the players appreciate it more, and we appreciate it more. It's been a lot of fun. Like, it's never been a struggle to get these kids to go out and play. Like, every practice, like, it's never been, oh, push me up. You know, we've never had to do that. This is like the first time in my life, like in, 20 years coaching, there's always that one practice where you got to try to get them to go. Like, we haven't had that. I think really the kids appreciate it as much as we do. It's a great opportunity. And then as far as the defense, I'm pretty excited. I don't know. It's hard to say. I have no idea. Like last year, I felt really confident going in the first game, and it wasn't what I expected. So I'm kind of like a little bit more reserved than I was. I think we're really good up front. I think we're good at the second level. I know we're young in the back end, but I know we're talented. I think we could be really good. I hope we could be really good. We've got to do the little things right. We've got to tackle well on first and second down. We've got to leverage the ball on first and second down, and then we've got to be great on third down. It's kind of always been our mantra. I think we're doing those things well right now. Doing it against those guys on the 12th will be a little different. A little bit different speed, but I really don't think our kids, honestly, I don't know if they've spent a minute thinking about Clemson, which is a good thing. I think they're just excited to be playing football every day. I really do. I'm kind of the same way. Am I game planning for Clemson? Yeah, I am, but I'm more worried about our 11 guys that we're putting on the field than the 11 guys they're putting on the field.
Lyle, to be fair, the first game last year, you did play a first-round pick at quarterback.
Yeah, I kind of knew he was good. I knew, like, nobody else thought he was good. I thought he was pretty good going into that game, but yeah, they didn't end up having a great year on offense though. But he looked pretty good that night though.
Well, given what you said about the guys don't really care that it's Clemson coming in, you said you're game planning for them. What was your thought process in the last couple of weeks as you go from preparing for Minion to preparing for Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne?
Yeah, it stunk because we got, the first 3 games we had the game plan. We were ready. And we took a month and, a week for each opponent, and we were ready. And then all of a sudden, like, they're all out. So, like, what a waste of time. But anyway, yeah, I mean, they're good. They're going to be playing a lot of new guys. They're going to lose. They lost a great receiver to the draft. They lost another great receiver to injury. They lost some really good offensive linemen. They get back a really good tight end, which kid's really talented, obviously. And then they probably had one of the best quarterbacks you would say in the world, and one of the better running backs in college football. And he is really good. We're going to do what we do. We're going to play, we're going to try to eliminate some of the dumb mistakes we made last year and just try to play clean as we can against these guys. I don't think we're not going to get crazy or fancy, but it's probably, I think we're pretty good. We'll find out how good, I think, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that would be a heck of a barometer, I would say.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that.
Hi, Lyle. My name's Will. I write sports for the Old Gold and Black. Nice
What's
to
up?
meet you. So you talked a little bit about how camp was different this year just because of the extenuating circumstances. Are there ways that you see changes that you made to the program this year that are going to affect the way the program prepares in the future?
Yeah, like the Zoom meetings I guess you're talking about?
Yeah, or anything either virtually or like the ways you actually run your camp day to day.
The virtual stuff is incredible. Like I thought that was unbelievable, unbelievably helpful. And honestly, like I would say too, like the recruiting, that's changed. I would say that's changed and it's going to change. I think people are ridiculous not to think that it was a good experience for everyone. One, you think you didn't get to when you spring recruit, you're technically not supposed to see any of these recruits. You're not supposed to meet their parents. You can't do any of these things. Well, now we got to Zoom these kids and their parents and their coaches and stuff. We found so much more out about these kids, built such better relationships with these kids. That was the game changer for me, was the recruiting. I felt like we did more recruiting without actually leaving the office or leaving our house, which was wild. So that was the first thing. The second thing is the Zoom with the players, to me, was unbelievable. I mean, they didn't have to leave their room. They could be wherever it was really convenient. And we got all the same things done without them having to, mess their whole schedules up and whatnot. I thought it was really good. It was really convenient. And it's sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and you find out that there's better ways to do things. And that's what we did. I mean, we found out there's a lot of things we're going to take from this experience and probably use in the future. In terms of practice, I wouldn't say, we're not really doing that much different. The whole mask thing and, that's different, obviously, but in the staying apart during practice when we're not actually running reps. But other than that, it's when we get on a football field, it's practice is practice, football is football. So.
I've heard some students talking about how they use Zoom and they get distracted during class. Do you find the same kind of things happening during your player meetings, or are people generally tuned in and focused?
Yeah, we kind of keep them on their toes. Like I found that I've got to keep them on their toes with questions and stuff like that. And then the other thing we found, you can't be an hour-long Zoom meeting. Like you're out of your mind. Like you got to keep it short and to the point, focused, and 25, 35 minutes, tops. You're in and you're out. That's a big thing we found out. It's like I can imagine those classes to go like an hour or 90 minutes. That's got to be tough. The big thing we stress with them too is, or I did, and I know a lot of the coaches did. Hey, when you get on Zoom, I want to see you at home. I want to see you at your kitchen table. I want to see your notebook. Show me your notebook. I want to see your pen. I don't want to see you in the car on your phone. That's not a Zoom meeting. That's you conveniently picking up your phone and pretending to pay attention. Like that's not what we're looking for. And I think the kids did a really good job with that. Really good job with that. And, you give them tests and stuff like that to make sure that they're, paying attention. So it was good.
Well, thank you.
You got it.
Any final questions for Lyle before we turn it over to Warren?
Yeah, Lyle, I had one.
Yep.
For pecking order, you mentioned Luke playing some safety. So when I take it when Luke is back there and Nasir's not, what's that position look like?
So you have really you got a bunch of guys taking reps back there. You got Kobe Davis is still playing back at safety. You got Zion Keith's been playing a lot and doing a really good job. He's grown up and take the next step. Trey Red, Keegan Good, and then I told you that we got this freshman Nick Anderson he showed up quite a bit. He's a football player, really good football player.
I don't remember him from being on signing day, so he's a preferred walk-on.
Yeah.
That's
impressive. Yeah, trust me, I'm very, very, very great kid. I kind of had an inkling, like on, when the freshmen were allowed to join us for the Zoom meetings, the incoming freshmen, and he just, he asked a ton of questions. I'm like, wow, this kid's really into this. He would text me with questions, and he was really into it. And then athletically, he got here and he's talented. Like he can run and tackle and physical, change direction, can do everything you need him to do. Very fortunate, to be honest with you, very fortunate to get him.
Did I miss Trey Rucker?
Yeah, he'll be back in 2 weeks. He had a foot injury.
Thanks for your time, Lyle. Appreciate it.
You guys have a good one.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Gerald, we'll turn it over to you, Coach, and we'll just open it up for questions. Connor or Les, you want to lead us off?
Hey, Warren, thanks a bunch for your time today. You are muted still. There you go.
Yeah, there you go, Connor.
You're replacing like a ton of skill guys on your side of the ball, especially with the loss of Sage in the last couple of weeks. How you feeling about the production, and will you guys continue to put up the big numbers you put up the last 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a big challenge. No question about that. Yeah, all our guys are new. I like them. They're all good players. They're all working hard. They're all certainly good enough to compete at this level and be productive in the ACC. But the big but is they just haven't gotten obviously game reps, and they really haven't gotten a ton of training in the off season. Really, that's really the thing. They haven't gotten a lot of full speed reps. We've shortened spring ball. We really didn't get. We're a developmental program. That's what we are. We develop these kids over time, and this off season has been just a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of walkthroughs, and that's all good, but it's not the same as full speed football, and getting the reps you need to be productive at this level. So do I feel good about the guys I'm coaching? I do. And am I looking forward to the season? Absolutely. Do I know when, it's going to click for some guys, to really be at the level we need them to beat really good football teams? That's really the question. No doubt.
Is there anybody that's positively surprised you so far in camp?
Good question. Right now we were worried about our depth at running back. I'm not nearly as worried as I was when training camp started, so that was a pleasant surprise. Knock on wood, the kids that we have stay healthy. Our freshmen have come in and worked out. So I think we have some good freshman running backs. They'll help us provide some depth at that position. That was certainly a pleasant surprise. I would say Taylor Marin has done an outstanding job developing at slot in a short time period. And he was a kid that I was certainly concerned was going to be ready to go game one. But I do think he's been 100% a very pleasant surprise. The other guy I would just say is I think Blake Whiteheart has come along. He's a guy we needed to come along at tight end to provide, a second guy that can play. We tried to keep from just playing one tight end all game. That's hard to do, especially a guy like Chap. So, I think, he's certainly going to make some mistakes, but I do feel like Blake has made some good progress that we were a little concerned if it would happen, but he's on track.
Warren, what's the offensive line looking like for you? That was a big focus in the spring, and I know missing those 10 spring dates really hurt that unit. And
right. Yeah. That's a position that we are thin at, and we do have some new guys in there. We moved Zach Tom to tackle, so he's certainly not a new guy, but he's at a new position, and that's been the position that you'd say coming into fall camp there was the most competition at, and unknowns of who's going to play where, how many reps they're going to play. Who's going to be their backup. There was just 1,000 questions coming into camp. And it's certainly, it's coming along. We've had a couple of bumps with injuries and things that have, again, kind of stunted the growth of a couple of guys. But I do feel good about it. We have McGinn, Naya, and Tom are all three very good players. And I feel really good about those guys. Nash is really having a, I really should have included him as he might have been the biggest pleasant surprise training camp. He's always been a little inconsistent, very talented. He has really had a nice training camp. I'm going to knock on wood when I say that, because hopefully he can keep that going. But he has probably been the number one biggest, I don't know if I'd say surprise, but he was a guy that had a great ceiling, and we weren't sure if he would ever hit it. And he's pushing that ceiling right now. So that's been great. And then there's, we've got Jurgens and Taleni Seren competing at center. They're both doing a nice job. I think Alan Raplier is another guy that, could have used all spring ball and really, but he is coming on and should, Raplier will help provide us some depth there also. So we're thin there, but we're getting deeper by the day. Just again, we're in a race to get all of them ready right now.
Noticed Terrence Davis isn't a name that you mentioned. Is he one of the guys who's been limited by injuries?
Yes, and Terrence is very talented. I mean, Terrence would have played a lot of football here, no question. He was really doing a nice job. Right now he's been battling a couple of things, so he's kind of an unknown right now.
Coach, you mentioned, the limitations without having spring ball this year. How has that really affected you, especially replacing so much, especially the skill positions? Have you noticed, have you been able to bounce back from that, with the last few weeks?
Yeah, we're trying, and you miss spring ball. And then the other thing is that I didn't mention is, you go into training camp and you got a lot of out of shape kids that haven't trained all summer. So we've been very cautious to push these kids physically and really do the same amount of reps that we usually do, just because they're not in the same shape. So, we're really kind of walking that line of trying to do enough to get them ready. But if we push them too hard, then they're going to be hurt. They're going to be out for a week and a half. And, we really didn't help ourselves. So they were not nearly in the same condition we started training camp in a normal year. That's been a huge, mountain to overcome right now too. So we've been doing our best to, keep the rep count at a point where we wouldn't injure guys. But it's hard, then you get a couple of guys banged up. All of a sudden you don't have enough guys to fit that spot, to complete a practice, and you got to shorten reps. So places where you're deep, they don't get enough reps because you just don't have guys in another position to supply a full team to go against them, so it's really, those are definitely the challenges of what we're going through right now. And it's, we won't be as ready as we would have been if all this was perfect, obviously, but we're, everybody's in the same boat we are. And, we just got to do a better job than them.
Was that the biggest adjustment, just changing the reps, limiting the reps, when you realized that, some guys were not in shape as you would like them?
Yeah. Cause you see them cause we're an up-tempo offense, and, usually, it takes, 8, 9, 10 plays to get a guy really gassed, and on play 4, they can't even breathe anymore. You're like, oh shoot, these guys are where we need to be right now. But we're trying to get them there, and they're better. Certainly they were the first 2 weeks, and we're conditioning a little more now. So we do have a little more time. So hopefully we'll get there.
Warren, the relationship between quarterback and receiver, always really important with the limited practice time in the spring and the COVID situation in the summer. Have your guys had much time to be together and try to get those little unique feels that they sometimes have, or has that just gone by the wayside?
That has gone by the wayside. Usually all summer, after spring ball is over, it's, those guys are out there at least 4 days a week, throwing routes, and, they kind of have a little training regimen they go through. And obviously they were all home, so they couldn't do it. And even when they got back, they weren't allowed to do it because you weren't allowed to be next to each other. You couldn't be within 6 feet from each other. You had a whole thing you had to go through, so they just couldn't throw. So we started camp. They really hadn't done much throwing, and then even working up to camp, you say, oh well, we had the 20-hour week where they could train, but you had to keep them in pods of 10. So, and it was all based on who their roommate is, and all this stuff. So you couldn't put Sam Hartman with Donovan Green. You couldn't do it. So they couldn't even be near each other until the first day of practice. So, we missed a lot of that. And that certainly was part of our conditioning too and training. But again, everybody's in the same boat we are. So I'm not going to say, we're unique or anything. But, as a coach, it's just that you worry, that you missed that time, but they're working hard to make it up right now.
Hi, Warren. We haven't met in person, but my name's Lauren Walsh. I work for WXII in Winston-Salem. Thanks for the time today. We appreciate it. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Sam Hartman because when we talked to Coach Clausen, he said he was really impressed with his weight, strength, and his command, the way he's developed. He said now he looks like an ACC quarterback. How would you describe his progress?
Physically, no question. I mean, he's, up to 215 now or fluctuating between, 212, 215, which, when we first offered him a scholarship, he was 160 pounds, and then, when he was a freshman, he was struggling to get to 180, so it's been, he's obviously way bigger, and really, it's not, it's bad. He's really worked into it, and he's put a ton of time in the off season. I mean, there's a guy who just, really is, we say a guy is, kind of compelled or, just committed, or is he compelled? I would say right now, Sam's compelled to be the best he can be. He's really, taking it to another level, is working hard and is working hard to work within our system. So I feel like, he is about as good as he can be with what he's been, the time he's been given with the team. So that's been great to see. His leadership's come along. I do think he's very comfortable with what he's doing right now. And, feel good about that he should have a good year, no doubt.
And just to follow up on the offense as a whole, with the extra year of eligibility, you guys obviously have access to a lot more players. So what's that been like for you as you start to put your offensive unit together?
Yeah, you're saying so like in the future, knowing that some of these guys may be back for another year. That's a comp. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. Because
that's very complicated. That's a very complicated deal. At least the NCAA has given us the ability to say that all the seniors are extra, so they don't count against our 85 next year if they wanted to return, which, has made managing it a little bit easier for the time being. Managing it in the future down the road will be very tricky, for sure, because there's going to be a class with, probably 40 people in it, somewhere along the line that's going to graduate and we're going to take a big hit. So that's obviously 2025 or whatever that is. That's really going to be the biggest, ramifications of all this negatively. There'll be a year where you just take a punch in the gut graduation wise. We have a lot of guys that have to make a decision if they'll come back in another year. We have not had those conversations with those kids. Certainly we've talked to them about the rule and, said, when the time comes, we'll have those discussions. And I'm sure some kids will choose to move on with their life and, a couple of them will choose to come back, but we just don't know who they are right now.
Warren, how many wide receivers do you believe you've got ready to play right now? And is there anybody in that group that's kind of broken out?
Right. Yeah. Right now, I do think we have enough, but we're right on the edge. So with COVID, that scares you to death. It's just a couple of a guy here and a guy here getting a positive test, and all of a sudden, we could be in, which really is any position. But right now, yes, we have Donovan Green, A.T. Perry, Nolan Gruel on the outside that are, I think, ready to go today. So 3 for 2 outside with Donald Stewart coming along, and really Jamal Banks, who's a true freshman. We're doing everything we can to get that kid ready. At some point, he's probably going to have to step on the field. He's having a nice camp. He'd be competing for the 4th spot right now on the outside with Stewart. But those three for sure on the outside with Banks and Stewart coming along. And then on the inside, you got Marin and Roberson, and really Keyshawn Williams, another freshman who's going to play for us at slot at some point. Love that kid. Very talented. I mean, you're going to be, when, you guys watched Kenneth Walker last year, and you knew that kid was going to be a good player. If you were watching Keyshawn Williams, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that kid's going to be a good player. So he's a talented dude now, and he's a hard worker, smart. You're going to be typing his name a few times in the coming years, I'm sure. So we're real excited about him also.
Quit teasing us, because me and Connor would love to be there.
Right. No, I know it stinks. We wish you were there, but it's just that year, right? So 2020.
Any final questions, guys, before we turn it over to Coach Cohen? All right, that'll wrap you up, Coach. Thanks, Coach Jarrett.
All right, thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Warren.
Yep.
All right, looks like Dave's finished up a call, and then Les, you want to lead us off again?
I'm sorry, guys. I have a player that's not where he's supposed to be. I'll be with you in seconds. Sorry.
FYI, guys, Coach Cohen will be the last one today, and then we'll have some more guys. We'll get some players back and some more coaches next week, and we'll share that over the weekend or early next week. FYI.
What's up, fellas?
How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing great, Les. Miss you guys. You doing all right?
I'm doing fantastic. Nice to see you.
Same here.
I'm going to start
Dave,
off.
Go ahead. Dave, you're the last coach I would ever want to not be somewhere where I'm supposed to be and get a phone call.
Especially if it involves COVID testing.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Les.
You're good.
Anyway.
Dave, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I'm going to start off with the fastball down the middle here for you. You've got 7 guys on your defensive line coming back that started games for you last year. Plus you added Miles Fox. Is this the best defensive line unit you've had in your tenure at Wake Forest?
I think that question's meant to be, that'll be answered on the game field, Les. It's a great question. It is certainly without question the deepest. How good it is, where does Tyler take his game? Where does Ja'Cory take his game? Where does Dion and Suleiman take their game? If you have a redshirt freshman take the steps you would hope he would take into his redshirt sophomore year in Ja'Cory, I think that'll be great upward movement. And I also think there's going to be a lot of good playing time for Shamar McCollum behind him. who really has had a very good camp. Both those guys have had very good camps. And then you have the addition of Rondell, which probably won't be for another 3 weeks. But Rondell was as productive after Boogie. Rondell was as productive as any player we had last year on the defensive front. But he's not back yet. He's doing individual, and his rehab's going well, but he's probably a few weeks out yet.
Couple questions on that. Is Miles Fox doing well? And does the depth that you have allow you to be more does it allow you to specialize a little bit more in what you do? Can you be more situational specific at times?
Great question. Miles is doing really well. You know, he hadn't played football for 2 years. So initially in practice, he'd flash and then kind of not hide under a rock, but you wouldn't notice him for a little while. And now he's getting to the point where there's some consistency and he's doing things that we need him to do on a consistent level. He's also very mature. He's a bright young man. He brings maturity into the room, which is really good. We're lucky to have him. I love him. He's a great kid. He's definitely made us better and will play a lot of football for us this year. As far as substitution, not so much really, because our depth is more in the run numbers than it is. I think we're better run defenders right now, Les, than we are pass rushers. I think what it does is it takes away the need for a guy to play 65 plays at 300 pounds, and maybe you cut it to 40 plays. And as we all know, guys, competition is very healthy and a very good motivator. I think when we get Rondell back full time, I think that'll help us, you know, in a situation where once in a while Boogie, maybe he sits out a first or second down every once in a while. So on third down, he's on fire. And I think that will add what you're referring to.
Dave, given how much attention Boogie figures to draw, is part of your focus now on, we talked about this, I think, last fall too, part of your focus becomes kind of developing that second pass rusher, that guy who can come off the other edge. There's
no doubt. We've really, you know, we've made that a major focus with Jacory and Shamar, and they've got to get there. And I think we've got some other younger guys that are starting to get better, whether it's Royce Francis, who's played a good amount of football, or Isaiah Chainer, who played in the bowl game. And again, Rondell, I think, is a playmaker too when we do get him back. We've got to get more threats. Tyler Williams at the 3 technique is a threat, but in definitive pass situations, historically, we've been an odd front. So he would be a nose more than a guy on the guard. And then we've got some really good athletic guys in pass rush situations. I think Jacquez Williams is really going to do some special things in those situations as an on-the-line blitzer and an off-the-line blitzer.
That's a little bit of what Justin was doing last year before he got hurt.
Yep. And Jacquez is really flashy. I mean, he's got twitch and change of direction. He's light on his feet. He's really athletic. So I think he'll add something with that. And those are the things that help too. And then, of course, Trey Red should be a help in that situation as well. He'll be up on the line of scrimmage a lot in third down situations.
In a general sense, Coach, can you is it starting to set in now that we're just like 2 weeks away from actual football? And does it seem a little bit more real now than what it did maybe a month ago?
It does, Les, because we're talking more about football than we did a month ago. You know, between Coach Clausen and Jordan Jarry, I mean, what they've had to do, and Brandon Horrigan and Chris Hanks, you know, I'm sure you've heard of them. I mean, it's just the schedule and the details, and the hardest thing is just the changes at the last minute, you know, whether it's test results or, you know, medically speaking, like today, for example, you know, we wanted to get everything, all the meeting rooms cleaned down, and, you know, you have to hold up meeting times if it's more important to sanitize everything than it is to meet. So there's less of that going on as everyone's grown accustomed to the policies and the procedures and the protocol that the medical people have set forth. So yeah, it's getting exciting. You know, It's a little different when you're lining, the film you're breaking down is Ohio State against Clemson and LSU against Clemson. But it's a little different than our practice video. So.
Yeah, Dave, we had Lyle on a little bit ago, and he was telling us like a month went into preparing for the first 3 opponents when you knew who those were going to be, and then all of a sudden that goes out the window with the reschedule model. Like, can you tell us how many hours of manpower were lost there with preparing for ODU?
Boy, we had some great ideas for ODU and Villanova. I can tell you that, Connor. We really did. But it was good. I mean, it kept us together. It kept everyone on the same wavelength as far as philosophically where Lyle was coming from. And then he does a great job of taking input from the assistants and, different curveballs we could help throw in with our base. But, one thing about Clemson, it's not like, they're not going to try and bait and switch. I mean, what they're going to do in a lot of cases, and they're very good at doing it, and they're extremely well coached. They're very well disciplined, and they're certainly never going to beat themselves on top of beating other people with their talent pool.
Dave, with the youth and inexperience on the back end of the defense, does that put a little bit more pressure on your guys to be solid up front?
That's a great question, Les. And the answer to that is philosophically and or schematically, it allows us to attempt to do some different things to put that pressure on my guys. Now the question is, just like when you asked personnel-wise where we're at, now are we going to be able to do that in a game, where the pass defenders are not in a run-pass the back-end guys are not in a run-pass dilemma, but rather they're playing pass to run. That would be the hope, that you could do more of that, wherein they're a 50-50 player. Obviously your ability in play action pass and some different double moves and pass routes, they're not going to be as sound as they would be if they're playing pass 1 and runs 2. If that makes sense. So that, that would be the initial change that we're going to try and do, is allow us to do that sometimes. And see how we can hold up front in some of the run game.
Dave, you're kind of the guy that everybody else says has the stocked refrigerator this year, and looking at the depth and everything else that you've got. Does it take you back to some of the earlier days where Wake was a defense first? Let's try to dominate the game with our defense and see what happens from there type situation?
No, not really, Larry. For a few reasons. Number one, I enjoy this group more than any group I've had in my 7 years. The amount of times we laugh and playfully kind of bust each other's stones and that sort of stuff, it's really been a lot of fun. Now, I'm a yeller, as most of you guys know, but there's a lot less of it. I think the expectation level is understood, and I think they're there to compete against each other. But quite frankly, offensively speaking, it's not even close how much more talented we are than those days. And I think what Coach R does offensively puts as much pressure on a defense as anyone in the ACC, and I'll stand by that comment.
Thanks for the news flash about being a yeller, too, by the way.
Although the words are always public television allowed, PBS. But, Coach R pressures the defense and puts you in binds, and, no, I don't see it that way at all. This is a much more competitive practice. And there are days that we walk off frustrated as defensive coaches, and there's days I'm sure they walk off frustrated as offensive coaches. The competition's there. The question is, how long will it take certain positions to mature, whether it's our back end or some of their perimeter guys. I think the practices are a lot more competitive than they were back then, Larry. Larry, back then it was either a 2-yard loss or as a 70-yard gain. It was not quality football. You know what I mean? The level of consistency was not there. Now there's a lot more 3 to 7 or 3 to 8-yard gains that favor one side or the other, but there's a much more competitive nature to it and kind of a medium ground, in my opinion.
Dave, Boogie told us a week or so ago that he was setting sights on the school sack and tackle for loss record, despite how many or how much fewer games are played this season. What have you seen out of him in camp so far, and do you see a level of determination there?
What makes Boogie special from the other kids I've coached here, and we've had some great D linemen here. Josh Banks was outstanding. I thought Duke Ejiofor was special, especially on third down. But what makes Boogie completely special is his motor. He's like that ever-ready bunny. I mean, there are plays on film where he's running by skill players. I mean, he has a special laser focus to get to the football. And we do such a good job on offense getting rid of the ball fast. So it's a tough question to answer other than he's playing as hard as, if not harder than he's ever played, Wes, with the same skill level and same focus and everything else. So I would hope that he's able to do all those things. But as I tell my guys, sacks are hard to get. They're not handing them out on Main Street. And sometimes he got sacks last year because Rondell beat his guy and missed a quarterback. But I think his pressures and TFLs, I would be disappointed if those numbers weren't up to the level that you're talking about. The sacks, I think those are hard to come by. They really are.
Dave, it's been kind of a fun progression, back in spring 18 when you guys were replacing Wendell and Duke and they had started so many games and played so well.
Mm-hmm.
Boogie that flashed, and he did some good things in the 18 season. And 19 last year we saw him break through. So I'm curious what the next level is, what you've talked about with him. He's told us his personal goals, but what are your personal goals for him to continue to elevate?
Again, I really try and stay away from statistics because I believe, like I said, there's different types of sacks and TFLs and successful plays that sometimes I might get the credit, but you're the one that did all the good work. You know what I mean? What I see in him is great focus and great energy and great finish in plays with a lot of good birthright talent. He's been blessed with a lot of talents, and I think those will equal his ability to play at the next level. I have no concern as long as he's going as hard as he is and as focused as he is. Again, I think last year we played Utah State and you walk away and say, boy, we didn't have much pressure on the quarterback, and you go back and watch the tape and, they didn't block Boogie once in that last 2-minute drill. He won every time, but those weren't sacks. They were all missed throws or high or low throws. And again, I try not to get into it statistically. I don't think that always equals what someone's performance level was or wasn't. So whether that's right or wrong, that's how I look at it.
Would you say he's more of a technique guy, or does he rely more on the physical ability to do the things that he does?
Great question, Larry. In 18, he was a player that solely relied on his physical abilities. And I don't think he captured the success he was hoping to have. He kind of thought he'd just pick up where Duke left off. And he did a great job the winter after the 18 season of studying film and getting coached up and kind of absorbing what are some things he could have done to been more successful. And I think now he's more balanced of the two. And
does he like that?
I'm sorry?
Does he like that? Does he like that side of it, studying and figuring out a way to maybe trick a guy instead of just beating him up?
It's like anything else. Motivation, what is your motivation? What is your why? I think he loves it if he thinks he can get another sack here and there, you know what I mean? I think there's a much better balance today and a year ago than there were 2 years ago in his approach to the game of football. And again, it's harder. It's always harder for these guys than they think. It's harder when they go from redshirting to playing because they're not reading off of cards anymore. And then when you become the sole owner of a position, it's hard now to do it every play in, play out. And I knew he came away from 18 being a little disappointed, and we weren't disappointed. We just knew what he needed to do to take the next step. And it's funny because we're going through the exact same progression right now with Jacory as a redshirt sophomore. Jacory's up to 251 pounds. He is a physical specimen. He should be a very good player for us. We're really hoping that he's able to take probably not the same step Boogie took because Boogie was 2 years older last year, but a substantial step he needs to take, and we want to see him take, as should Tyler Williams. And that's why when Les had the opening question of, is this the best group you've had? Well, potentially it absolutely is and should and could be, but Tyler's got to take a step. Ja'Cory's got to take a step. I think Shamar's ready to take a step. So I'm sorry, did I answer your question? I know I babbled a little bit.
Everybody good?
I'm good.
All right, we miss you guys because now there's no one smiling after practice. Now there's zero, not one smile.
I thought you said you were busting on guys, and you laugh more than ever before. Like
only in meetings, Connor. I'm not getting soft now.
Okay. All right.
Thanks
guys,
time,
have a great day. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Nice to see you, Bob.
Thanks, Will.